Everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good wherever you are in this beautiful world, and welcome to, my favorite channel, Aquarius Rising Africa. And wow, I am so blessed to have with me today Veronica Swift. How are you, beautiful Veronica? It's such a pleasure having you on Era. How are you doing? Veronica, can you hear me? Oh gosh, I think we might have sound issues again. I just want to make sure Veronica is here. Veronica, can you hear? Okay, I just want to check. I know Veronica was having some sound issues. Are you back? Can you hear me?
Hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you now. You're back. Can you hear us? I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay, guys, I'm gonna end the stream, and I'm gonna come back. Okay, Veronica, do you want to log out and in again? Strange things are happening. Yeah, I got to tell you guys, this has never happened before. Don't know what's happening here. Okay. I'm going to ask you, Veronica, to log out and log in again. This is crazy. This is crazy. At the stage, there she is. Okay. Hang on.
No, I hear nothing.
I can hear you now.
I cannot hear you.
Can you not hear me?
I can't see you either.
That's crazy. Just here, I want to just hear from you guys, the viewers. Are you able to hear Veronica speak? I can. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, Veronica, they can hear both of us. Can you guys see me?
Doesn't look like it started.
Veronica, they can hear you. Okay. They can see me and they can hear you. Can you hear me? This is crazy. Veronica, she's just chatting to me in the private chat. Doesn't look like the stream started. Okay.
Okay.
Good grief. Fun games. Okay, well, we're just having a chat in the private chat, and what she's saying is she can't see anything. She can hear nothing. She can't see me. It's like a big black box for her. And to her, it doesn't look like the stream has started. So I've asked her to actually log out and just to log in again. yeah, she does have some bad weather where she is as well. So I'm hoping that this is going to be success. Pray, everybody, please. Here we go. Okay, it looks like she's on again. Add to stage. All
Woohoo!
right. You're
Oh
giving me
boy.
a heart failure, woman.
Technical difficulties right off the bat. Oh well. They're done now. Hi, how are you?
Good grief. I was just like getting nervous here about this. Like, oh my goodness, this is really jinxy deluxe happening here.
No,
All
it's
right.
okay.
Well, we have you on. Before any further ado, I know that you'd like to start the show with a prayer as well. So please,
I would.
let's do it.
I would. Join me, if you will. Dear Father God in heaven, I ask today for your continued blessings as I take this next step on the journey that you have sent me on. I ask that you flow through my mouth your perfect words as you flow them through my fingers. I ask protection over all of us here and all watching from any spiritual warfare or attacks, including the internet, electricity, computers, and technology. I ask protection and shielding from your angels of the Most High God. We know that these things have been kept secret for so long, need to come to light for healing and change to occur. And I ask that you let me continue to be a force for good in that process. In Jesus' name, amen. And see, Chantelle, I said, I don't want to cry in your program. And so what do? I tear up right off the bat, naturally.
I love it when that happens, right?
Oh,
Tears
dear.
cleanse the soul. I'm so chuffed to have you. Yeah, really, I am. I mean, you guys, I mean, I know a lot of you must know Veronica Swift because of the blogs that she's been writing. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of her background here. She's an independent blogger, independent being the operative word, okay? Independent. Who stumbled upon the structure of the hidden Luciferian system, okay, the Luciferian Brotherhood or the Illuminati in late 2020. And that was around about the time I stumbled upon it as well, by the way. So since then, she's been for the last 3 years trying to, been spent over the 3 years trying to understand the way the system is structured, how it functions, its ways, its methods, and the people who keep it functioning. She compiles information collected from a variety of sources and blogs on the system, its members, SRA victims, and other related material at veronicaswift.blog, primarily for private membership. We've got all her links and things in the description area. And she's also just finished her first book, the Illuminati Primer. That's been sitting. I mean, I know you've sent it to me. How crazy is this? It's been sitting in Johannesburg for like 2 months now. I did try and call them this afternoon, by the way, and all I got was some robot speaking to me. So I'll get it eventually. Anyway, so I am so really blessed to have you here. And I know when we started corresponding, I was just about jumping over the moon because I didn't ever think that I would ever get to speak to you, but hallelujah, here we are. And really, I am so, so, so blessed that you are on Aquarius Rising Africa.
Well, I feel blessed to be here too.
Yeah, indeed. And I love your humor. I love your everything about you. We've had a number of off-air chats, which have been great fun. and so it's really good to have you here. But over to you, because obviously everyone is here to listen to what you have to say. So maybe just start by telling us. See, Caleb's in the chat as well.
Hi, Caleb.
The wolf is awake and on the offense. Absolutely, we are. It's so beautiful to see so many of our regulars in here as well. So welcome, everybody. Veronica, tell us how it began for you.
Well, thank you, Chantelle. I didn't think I'd ever be here either, frankly. I'm like the biggest introvert on planet Earth. So it's a step to talk instead of to write. I can't edit my words as well as I can on screen when I'm typing. So I'm, like we have said, I'm liable to say something that starts a little something here and there, but that'll be all right. So
absolutely.
I did not ever expect to be a blogger, number one, and number two, I never in my wildest dreams expected to blog on this heavy of a subject. So I was teaching and I noticed things changing, especially in kind of like the 2010 to 2015 era. I noticed things changing really fast. And I noticed they were really, really different from when I had been in school. And things just seemed very odd to me, and I could not figure it out. And I asked everybody. I asked all my coworkers, I asked the students, I asked my family, I asked my friends. I'm like, what do you think is going on? I don't really get all this stuff, all these changes, like big changes, especially in the workplace that I was noticing. And then I started just asking in my head and started compiling a list of all this strange, what I've considered to be strange things that were occurring, not just in the US, but in the whole world. And I asked and asked and asked. I think I asked on a daily basis for about 3 straight years. And God is always faithful to bring the answers. It's just that I didn't want to hear the answer when it came. So I started getting phone calls from a particular person in my life, and they were telling me all these strange things, mostly in the political realm, because that's what they happen to be interested in. And I'm like, "I don't wanna hear what you have to say. I don't wanna know. I don't wanna think that all the politicians are in on some crazy nut job thing that's going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about. I don't wanna know about this." I actually hung up on him a number of times, because I really just I didn't wanna hear it at that time. But that was the start of God bringing me, the big news. So then I wound up ill for a while and sitting a lot and in bed a lot, and I'm not a huge video person, I don't watch a lot of videos. So but I didn't have anything else to do, I'd kind of run out of other ideas, I was sick of playing games, I was like, "Ah, okay, so I'll watch some videos," and I kind of liked Sarah Westall at that time. So I was watching a lot of her videos, and I ran out of kind of the ones that interested me, and then I started watching the ones that I thought were kinda, like, not quite so interesting, and I happened upon one of Jessie Zabota's interviews, and I just about broke my jaw because it dropped so hard and so fast, I thought I heard it clunk on the table. I was just astonished, and I had this feeling after I watched her video that this was the answer I had been looking for the past 3 years, that whatever was going on and what she was telling was it. This was the problem. This was the undercurrent. This was the big news that nobody knew about. And so then I
Right.
started this was mid Oct I think it was about mid to late October of 2020. And then I started watching more of her videos, mostly in Sarah Westall, because I wasn't familiar with any other show at that point. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know where she was. I didn't know she was on Twitter, like I was in the dark. So I just watched a bunch of Sarah Westall stuff because I had actually started kind of like 8 months, maybe a year after she'd been presenting her story. So it was kind of the middle of the road at that time. And I was like, this stuff makes very little sense to me. I don't really understand it. I know there's something important here, but like I can't quite wrap my brain around it. So then I started taking notes because my background is in research. I know how to write research papers. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to fall back on what I know. So I started taking notes and notes and more notes and more notes. And then I filled a notebook. And then I thought, well, I got to switch to the computer to take notes because I can't fill so many notebooks. And then I can't search what I've already written down, handwriting. I got to be able to search this because she talks about this stuff in a lot of different places. I got to compile this because my brain doesn't work like that. My brain's a lot more linear. So I have to have all this stuff in one spot. I got to have all the same subject in the same place. So then I started on the computer and I made notes upon notes upon notes upon more notes. And then I thought, well, this still isn't coalescing as much in my head. I thought, well, I've always wanted to learn the mechanics of a blog. I've had that in the back of my head for a long time. I had tried a blog, nobody had read it. It was kind of just for friends and family, and it didn't load very well. And I would send out the links, and people would call me on the phone. And I'd say, "Hey, did you read that blog?" And they'd say, "Oh no," like move on. Like, okay, so nobody's reading this. I thought I'll start a blog because nobody is gonna read that blog, right? Ha 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 ha. So I started the blog, and it's actually kind of uh, today is kind of a a good day to do this because it was actually January 9th of 2021 that I put out the first post
It's your
on my
birthday
first blog.
today.
It's the blog's
I
birthday
just love
today.
it.
It's kind of cool.
Isn't it amazing? And I know we spoke about that yesterday. So I have to say that I actually wanted to say that, and sorry to interrupt you, is that you said last night when we were talking, or yesterday morning for you, your first blog was the 9th of January 2021, right?
Yeah.
Or 22?
21.
Right.
21. Mm-hmm.
And now it's the 9th of January 24. So
Yeah.
it's your third birthday and you're
Yeah.
celebrating it with us. Yay,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
That's cool. It's the
Totally
start of the
divine.
4th year. The start of the
Yeah.
4th year. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. I'm like, I never in a million years would have thought I would be doing this for 3 straight years, much less starting a 4th year. It's kind of mind-blowing to me, but there's so much information out there and there's so much to learn and there are so many heartbreaking stories. It just
Oh,
seems
gosh.
never ending. So there's plenty of material and people seem to be interested. So, I keep writing as long as people keep reading.
Well, I have to say, it's so interesting because you talk about how you also came across this. For me, it was also, and for you, you said it was October 2020. For me, it was September. Actually, probably I'm going to say I came across Jesse's first interviews with David Zublig, actually. And that would have been about July, August of 2020. And I had just come back. I'd just been traveling, living in Thailand, and I was traveling between South Africa and Thailand for 3.5 years or something. And I kind of got caught in lockdown, visiting my mom. And it was quite amazing because my mom actually got my mother's so wide awake. It's awesome. I've got to tell you, she's so red-pilled. And she said to me, I had to listen to this. And then from that, I found Jesse's interview with David Zublig. And the first thing for me was the first interview talking about when her proctor took her and to literally the ceremony where she beheaded her, the previous Queen Mother of Darkness, and then cannibalized her.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought like Satanism, what is that? I mean, they probably do a bit of voodoo in the graveyards, and the worst they can do is kill a cat. That for me would just be too much, right?
Right.
But this was on a whole nother level, right? So it was absolutely incredible. And I just thought I had to get hold of this woman. I had to get hold of her. And somehow I found her, and it was actually on Twitter. And I messaged her and I said, I need to speak to you. And I must say, Jessie was amazing. She responded immediately. And at that stage, she was on 2 shows. She was on Zublig's show, and I think, was it Dan Duval or one of those guys, another one? And I said to her, and with that, I said, I need to interview. I'd never done this before. And if any of you ever watched my first interview with Jessie, I still said, I've never done this before. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And it was amazing because since then, what's opened up, and that was in 1st of September in 2020. In fact, we did
it probably took me months to find your show because I was so wrapped up in trying to understand what was, what I'd already just heard, which was mind blowing to me. I think the first show I watched, she was talking about the battle between Beyonce and Meghan Markle for the Eastern Quadrant Grand High Priestess position. So that just about blew my mind. I thought, what do you mean there are witches, number one? And what do you mean they battle? What's that?
What are they witchy battles? They like bounce around.
Yeah, I know. And my mind was like, I can't hold this in. It's really hard to, boys, I found it just incredibly difficult to grasp the whole concept of it. We are so shielded from anything like that it's so new and so different. It just takes a long time to kind of work through the, little mini brain explosions that go on every time you read something new. Thankfully, I'm through that process because, boy, my brain felt like it hurt for a while. Yeah, it's quite something.
But you've done an amazing job with your blogs because what I've found is just reading your stuff. I mean, you do it in such a succinct way, and yet it's so understandable for us to actually read. So I'm going to ask you then, what have been like the things that you've discovered the most? Like, what has been the most beneficial? I want to say is probably the word, in what you've discovered through writing your book.
About the material, or about like the process of writing?
I think just the process as well as the material, in terms of how you've put it together, because you've done a great job of doing that. I mean, that's one thing for sure, that Jessie is amazing. Her information on the system. And I mean, I'd also never, ever heard that before. And I mean, from what I'm hearing you say as well, the first person.
Right.
And I mean, another Caleb that we have on the show as well, that was one of the reasons he actually contacted me, was because also of Jessie. He'd never heard people speak, or anyone else speak, about stuff that he knew about,
right,
as much as what Jessie, the information that Jessie had. So I think it's really, Jessie has certainly been a great pillar, right?
Absolutely. And she said that many, many, many times. I've heard her say that on numerous videos. Like, she wants other people to come and speak, because, and that's the key, right? That's what they don't want us to know, is that the brotherhood has patterns, and they repeat their patterns with numerous individuals, and it may be in different locations, it may be in different circles, it may be in different subgroups of the occult, but they don't always vary that much what they do. They have their stock in trade, and that's what that's what I've discovered anyway. Is that the more people that come out and talk, the more you realize how it's different but the same. It's the same structure, it's the same kinds of activities, So I think that's one of the biggest mental discoveries about this whole clandestine brotherhood, whether you call it the Great White Brotherhood, or just the Brotherhood, or the Luciferian Brotherhood, or the system, like Jessie does. They're
not very
they
creative,
have their stock.
are they?
No. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to drink and talk and choke at the same time. You can tell I'm not used to doing this. So, but in terms of writing, blogging is great. And I've written a lot in my life, but blogging is wonderful for exploring small topics. And what I have found is that, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think my readers are in the same boat. We can only handle so much of this information at once. And we could, otherwise it's information overload, and it all just kind of makes you want to go away and go, take a walk or something, because it's too much to process all at once. So I like the blogging structure, because I can take a small topic and I can pull together all the information that I can find on that particular topic. And then I can write just on that one subject. Like this week, at the end of the week, I should have a blog coming up. If not this week, then next week, on NASA and the Brotherhood's involvement with NASA. Well, once you start looking into stuff like that, you realize, wow, like Kathy O'Brien and this other survivor and that other person. And then there's this Masonic society that's involved in it. And there's that, so a lot of things coalesce when you just start looking at one, what I would consider a small facet, like NASA's involvement in the system. But then it turns out to be like a 1,500 to 3,000 word article, which is long enough to read in and of itself. But I like that I can take these small ideas, pull all the information together from various sources, and kind of lay them all out. Because if there's one thing, in the very beginning, I said to myself, I'm not going to write these articles just for me to read. I need to write them for myself to understand what I'm looking at. I need to do that, but I can't do that just for myself. There's no motivation to do it. And so I thought, well, here's the deal. The commitment device that I'll make is that if even one other person reads it, then it's worth it for me to put in the time and effort, because this takes a lot of time. It's worth it for me to put in the time. It's worth it for me to put in the effort. It's worth it for me to do the work if somebody else gets a benefit out of it. So that's really why I put it out there in public. Otherwise, I just would have written what I wrote and stopped. If it was just for myself, I would have stopped probably 3 months in, 4 months in, because I would have gotten to the point where I felt like I knew enough for myself. I had satisfied my own curiosity. But, I thought, well, maybe one or two other people will discover these blogs, and then they'll get a benefit out of it too, and that would make me feel fantastic. That would be good enough for me if I had, one or two other people reading them. So, uh, in the beginning, nobody, because when you first start a blog, nobody reads it because nobody knows where it is, nobody can find it, and and I thought, wow, I have all this time in the beginning. I get it because blogging is not as simple technically as you might think. There's a lot
Right.
to learn to start out. When I started out, there was no such thing as Substack. Substack's much easier to navigate than, for say, WordPress or Blogger or Blogspot or all the other different places that you can blog on. But WordPress which is what I started on, is a little more complicated. So there's a lot of technical stuff about it. And I thought, well, I'll have a couple months, maybe 3, 4 months. I can play around with this. I don't have to worry. Nobody's going to find it. It's going to be, I'll have time. I don't have to stress out. And that didn't work too well because I happened to cite one of Kathy Fox's stories. And unbeknownst to me, when you cite someone else's work inside of a blog post, it sends them a notification. So she got notified that I had used one of her blogs as a resource. And then suddenly one day when I was walking out the door to go somewhere else and do something else, I happened to glance back at the computer. And on this one particular blog, I had 1,000 views and I almost fell over. So,
Wow.
yeah. And there were people commenting, you spelled so and so's name wrong. And I'm frantically trying to figure out how to edit this thing because I didn't know which button like you could press to edit. You could change things, but how you make that live, I didn't know. So I must have unpublished and republished that same blog about 25 times because I was using the wrong button that day. It was hysterical. In hindsight, it was hysterical. That day I thought I was going to die. But so yeah, lots of technical stuff about blogging, lots of, information to gather, and that's another thing. Boy, this has been information at a level that I've never dealt with before. I mean, I've dealt with references, I've dealt with citing sources, I've dealt with collecting information and keeping a stock of information, but we're talking probably 10,000 sources right now that I've collected, probably more, but
Wow.
I'd say conservatively 10,000. And incidentally, I am not the only one that contributes to this blog. There are so many people who help me that I can't talk about and who are much more private than I am and much more quiet than I am and whose names I don't mention, but there are people who have literally also invested their lives and their money into helping me do this blog. So, gotta thank
Oh,
them because they're pretty darn amazing. Yeah.
wow. That's incredible. I mean, I think I'm hearing what you say just in terms of, what it actually takes to blog. And again, I mean, there's so much research that goes into it. So,
Yeah.
what have you learned? I mean, what have been the main things about the system that you've learned? Give us your feedback on that. What have you learned about this great white brotherhood?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm fascinated by just the vast underground structures that they've got. I mean, I can't I'm a very visual person, so my mind thinks in pictures a lot of the time, and I try to imagine these structures and I just really can't very well. I mean, I've
Right.
gone down underground and visited like salt mines, for example, in the Midwest, but and those seem vast and they have a strange kind of constant temperature and not much humidity and they do a lot of things like store film and stuff down there because it doesn't degrade as fast as it does with surface level humidity fluctuations. And those places seemed big, but I mean, from what I can tell, the underground structures are so incredibly vast that it's impossible to even imagine them. They've got them under the ocean, they've got them under, the the continents, they've got them at depths that I can't even fathom. There's I wrote a post called Tunnels a while ago that talks a little bit about certain people's experiences with submarine tunnels. But those tunnels, they've been around for a lot longer than we could even imagine, according to some other resources I've seen since then. tomorrow, what's today, Tuesday? Yeah. Tomorrow I've got a post coming out about Richard Sauter's work. He wrote a couple of books on underground tunnels and underground bases. And, I've learned a lot from the individuals who have been down in tunnels, like Robert Van Dries Michel or Van Driest. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, his middle name. He's a survivor. I've learned he's been on the maglev trains. I've learned a lot about others who have been down underneath the earth. Sauter does this incredible expose using government documents and government whistleblowers, retired people who come to him and like hand him information, pictures, drawings, schematics, information. He does this collection of information on elevators and the complex kind of elevators, the elevators that could like raise and lower a football stadium size area, which just,
Right.
it's so hard for me to imagine. So that's one thing I'm kind of fascinated by is these underground structures and the above ground structures. I wrote a post called Ley Lines, Serpent Dragons, and Energy Transfer. And in that I drew from Cisco Wheeler's book, Behold a White Horse. One of her chapters talks a lot about kind of the esoteric structures, the pyramids, the obelisks, the spirals that are kind of Masonic connected, but also are apparently underground, seen underground, and the reasons why they build them and the energy transfer and the ley lines and how they take energy from one place to another, which is also something that Jessie has talked about. I guess she and George went on a trip once and he actually had some kind of detector and they clocked energy going from one place to another. So this whole idea of energy transfer, and it's not anything we ever hear about, like in normal times. You don't hear about, oh, hey, the local Catholic church or the local Masonic temple has this structure and it's designed to funnel energy from one location to another. So that's kind of stuff that I've learned that just kind of still blows my mind. And then the other part of it is I love the people. The people astonish me. I've been astonished over and over and over again by the individuals that, if you're not familiar with any of this brotherhood stuff, you wouldn't imagine are part of it. And whistleblower after whistleblower after whistleblower, they name the same people. So there you go.
Right.
And that just blows my mind because they live such incredible cover lives, such incredible cover stories, and they're covered for by this what I can only imagine to be an incredibly vast network of cover-upperers, for lack of a better term, people who are designated to gatekeep or shut down information transfer about anything from inside the system to the outside world.
Would you say, for example, someone like Russell Brand? Now, I mean, it's obvious to me, like Russell Brand has been in the system. It's obvious, right? But he's often been named as a gatekeeper. Would you consider him to be a gatekeeper just from your experience and your knowledge, someone like him?
Ash, I haven't really looked into him, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say on him specifically. I really kind of have to dig for information. I don't rely a whole lot on my preconceptions. So most of what I put out is based on other people's information. I try not to mix in my opinions very much because what do I know, right? I try to come to conclusions based on like the data that I pull together, but he's not one that I've actually looked into at this point.
It's just interesting to me because I think, as you say, these guys, live such cover lives, and Caleb's actually saying dual lives, which makes perfect sense. I mean, and I think one of the biggest issues, we know, for example, Jessie has been under huge attack over the years. And I mean, people got hold of pictures of her proctor, her grandmother, right? Yeah. And a lot of that was, oh, you see, look at her, this little old lady, and Jessie's accusing her of this and this and this. And we're going, but this is what we're telling you, right? Yeah. I mean, this is exactly, it's like they will use they live these simplistic lives, right? Where you wouldn't imagine for 1 second that little old lady is actually doing the things that she's doing behind the scenes, right?
Exactly.
So, and I think that's the deception, because we must never, ever forget there is such a deception. I mean, that's what Luciferianism is about, is all about deception, right? So the deception is so huge that so many people, even though we're telling you that this is what's happening, even though we're telling you the likes of Beyonce and whoever it is, if you're looking at the whole entertainment industry, really are puppets for this disgusting system. I mean, Beyonce with all her sweetness and her beauty and what have you, and can't actually believe that she would be doing these things. But that really is the deception. And I think that's where people battle to make that breakthrough.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. It's hard to look at someone, say, Britney Spears or a Christina Aguilera or a Madonna and think that they do heinous things in their second life in the evening or overnight or whenever they happen to get up to the mischief that the Brotherhood wants them to get up to. It's just mind-blowing and really, really difficult to get over that hurdle that might be the case. And they want it that way. They want this information to be foreign to us. They want it to be, to spark cognitive dissonance so that when we're faced with the possibility that the world is not the way that it seems, that we reject it out of hand. And just reject it because it's not what we see with our own eyes, therefore it cannot be true. And I say that having done the same thing myself, having done it for almost a year when I was first introduced to this in mild form, not even the Brotherhood proper, but just the possibility that United States presidents and vice presidents and executive members of the executive and bureaucratic branches of government were not all good. It took me a year to mentally get over that. And that's part of the ethos, I think, of what people are faced with in trying to, if you come out and say, hey, Beyonce is rumored to be a grand high priestess, a witch, people are like, what? Right. It's really, really difficult to bridge that gap. So I think that's one of the benefits too of me. I'm not in the system. I didn't grow up in the system. I've had some strange things happen in my life, but nothing like anything that folks who are hierarchy or expendables, for lack of a better term, go through in the system. And so part of the benefit of me writing versus someone who has been in the system writing is that I come to it with like eyes that are not accustomed or attuned to the normalcies of someone who would be growing up in that environment. Things that would feel normal to them are very, very abnormal to me. And so I can highlight that and say, hey, this is crazy. This is weird. This is strange. To me, I can't believe they do this. And I can ask the questions as well, because not all of it makes sense to all of us all the time. Things that may be normal to Caleb or normal to Jesse are just really foreign to me. So I can work through that in my own brain and then try to bring that to other people in a form that is easier for them to understand than it was for me to struggle through and try to understand. I think that there are very, very few people in the world who have as much time on their hands as I have had the past couple of years. I have just been blessed with perfect timing because I had the time available, I had the energy available, I had the technology available, and I had the questions, those burning questions in my heart, really, really deeply wishing to understand what's going on. And if I hadn't had all that coalesce with God's perfect timing, I would not have been able to write this blog. It just wouldn't have happened. So,
well, that perfect timing is absolutely meaning that you're completely in alignment with God to begin with. So you wouldn't have had the perfect timing if you were not aligned. That's my opinion. Right. And I so agree with you there. I have no idea about these things. I mean, my parents, we were not church goers. We lived on the farm. Mm-hmm. So it was like I was never forced into any religion or anything like that. So all of this stuff was such a huge, as you say, I mean, I remember saying on a number of my shows, I've never said wow so much.
Yeah, I know. If you could hear, if there was like behind the scenes vision, you'd hear me muttering a lot. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, what do you mean by that? Oh my gosh. What? I do that a lot in private. Oh, I can't believe that.
Yeah, exactly. I actually posted something on Facebook that I came across the other day, which I had to have a chuckle at. It's like all my wrinkles, what are from laughter, except the ones between my eyes. Those are the what the F lines, and those things run deep.
Yeah.
I can tell you, the last 3 years, I've had so much. What the
Yes. Yeah.
flip are you
Yeah.
talking about? No way.
Yeah.
Crazy. And it's true. There is so much. There's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and it just becomes more and more intertwined. But really, at the end of the day, if we sit back, because we can see how they try and confuse the masses.
Oh, yeah.
And that to me has become abundantly obvious. So, with this whole, initially as well, this whole white hat, black hat sort of stuff. It's like, come on, really at the end of the day, who's the white? I don't really care. You've got to be discerning. You have to be so strong in your faith at this point to understand who's in truth and who's not in truth. And you've got to risk. You've got to take a risk. You can't just. So many people, have fallen off by the wayside and just can't look at this. I was told the other day by someone who I actually know quite well, and was very offended. She blocked me on Facebook, and she told me, and someone I know in the area, she told me she's offended by my content.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm offended by my own content.
Goodness, if I could give you a preview of the emails that I've received over the last 3 years. That's an education in and of itself, let me tell you. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's because I'm offended by my own content that I put out there that I do it, right?
Exactly.
So I think there are those that will see this through and actually turn it into something that is fruitful for other human beings. It's never intended to upset people or piss people off. It's really to show you the truth of what is going on in this world. And the underbelly is so vast. Again, Jessie was mentioning the other day that 70%, 7 out of 10 people in her community were involved in this Luciferian system.
Yep.
And that means probably the 30% was so cognitively dissonant that they didn't even know what was going on to begin with. So all of this stuff is kind of just happening right under our noses while we looking at our telephones, right? And walking with earphones. So you're not seeing, you're not hearing, you're just stuck to this thing that they want you to be stuck to. So, really at the end of the day, I think it's such an amazing task that you are doing, because for us, there'll be those of us who sit, and as you're sitting with us now on the platform, and we can chat away, and there'll be those like yourself who actually write these blogs and who put that information out there for people to actually read and realize there is stuff going on, and we can't just turn our backs from it. So I think
it's not for everybody. The information's not for everybody. It takes a strength of spirit and some determined resolve to make it through a lot of what I write. There's a grief process that I think everyone that comes to this information goes through, and for some it's a little bit longer, and some it's a little bit shorter. But we all grieve that these things are happening, and then you get over the grief, and you think, "What do I do now? How do I help? What's the next step?" And for me, it's been information. Like I can't make a picture in my head about what might come next. I can't talk to other people unless I understand a little bit about it. So I think that's where I fit in terms of making it easy to understand, or as easy as I could make it to understand, compiling the information. I've been endlessly accused of not going out and being an investigator and debunking this, and I think it's about the dumbest thing in the world for me to try to debunk someone's personal experiences. Not only is it dumb, but it's insulting to them. I wouldn't want anyone trying to debunk my personal experiences. It's a stupid thing to do. It's hard enough just to understand what someone else has gone through. Understand it, appreciate it, go through those feelings of grief for them, and then, like come out the other side like, shoot, this can't keep happening. this can't keep happening to people. This crap can't keep going on. So, but
Exactly.
unless that we have a bulk of, you have to hit a critical mass of understanding before people will act, because they're not going to act on something that makes no sense to them. So information first for me anyway.
It's so true what you're saying about people. You cannot debunk someone else's experience, because one of the things we've done on this channel, and I've really loved doing, is given a voice and a platform for any survivor who's been through whatever, and it doesn't necessarily have to be SRA, right? It can be just a traumatic personal experience and what have you. Just for the person, on just using your voice. Thank you, Love. And again, Joanne Breeze as well. Thank you so much. And just for people just to come out and speak, because using your voice and sharing your truth is not only so healing for the individual. I mean, I've been a healer for more than 20 years now. And one thing I do know is people need to speak. They need to be heard.
Yeah.
The greatest form of healing is for people to be heard and to say, I believe you. And yes, I don't think you're crazy. No. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I must say I work very well with teenage, and especially teenage boys, because the stuff they get up to, and I'll sit there and I'll chuckle with them. I go, did you get away with it?
Chantelle is she's always starting, so she's got to be starting something, I love that about you.
I'm the eternal rebel. What can I say? It's so awesome. I was so bloody naughty as a kid myself. It's like, what the heck? Of course they're going to get up to nonsense. It's like there's Malawians living in South Africa, and my nanny, she's obviously South African. And I was driving her yesterday, and I said to her, and there's lots of xenophobia right here. So I said to her, so Bongi, I said, do you like the Malawi? And she goes, yes, I like them. They're nice. I said, yes, they're peaceful. And she says, but the police were looking for them the other day. I said, what are the police looking for? She says, those that don't have ID books, obviously passes to be her. She says, but they run and they hide, right? And they hide from the police. I said, but of course, wouldn't you? She says, yes. We're all going to run, right? So it's identifying with the human need, right? And the human understanding. But I think that at the end of the day is really what it is. Sorry, just to go back to what I was saying. It's about people being heard and people being listened to and people being understood. So to sort of say, and I mean, I've had the same thing with people on that come onto my show. It's like, do you know that one that's da-da-da? I'm like, whatever, just take your nonsense somewhere else. Like, I don't care. But I want to actually ask you as well about being harassed and stuff like that. Do you find you being harassed by people as well because of the content you put out?
All the time.
Maybe?
Yeah. All the time. Yeah. And in fact, from I don't know, February of 2021, I started getting the emails. Well, so-and-so, they're no good and they're bad. You need to stop writing about them. And then 3 days later, hey, so-and-so, they're terrible. And you shouldn't reference them because XYZ. And so these came with regularity. And I got to the point where after a month, I'm like, there's something fishy about this, because you just don't get that kind of thing. I just couldn't imagine that I would have gotten that kind of thing if I had been writing about somebody else. I think because I discovered Jessie first, because I wrote about her experiences first, because I tried to understand what she was saying first, and because, it was along the way that suddenly I discovered Kurth Barker's work and Anna Starfire's work and Kathy O'Brien, and I didn't have these names in the beginning. I didn't know who they were. I was just, I had my head in a book, really trying to understand what Jessie was talking about, because it was that much of a mental hurdle for me at that time. And so as all these other names popped up, and I started integrating more and more survivors into the writings that I've done, then the harassment has also ramped up, but it's never included anybody else but Jessie. They are who she wants to shut up. They are who they don't want me writing about her. They don't care if I write about anybody else. They don't want me writing about her. So
Right.
to me, she's the linchpin. She's the one who's given all of the vast amounts of incredibly important information, the details they don't want out. They don't care if we hear from the low-level ex-slaves of the system, the expendable varieties. They don't care if they tell their stories because it doesn't link into the vast network that's the higher level. So I think her information is key, and they don't want me
Right.
writing about that.
And I mean, and the one thing I have to say is that the people who are harassing her, I mean, and many a day I've had stuff put out there about me as well. And I mean, I have to say, I don't know why, but entertain yourself if you must. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. But the lies they would put out about me, right? I mean, they would put information out that I didn't even know they were talking about me, right?
Yeah.
So now you really want me to believe you when you're speaking such SH1T about me, right? And now I must believe what you're saying there. A lot of the stuff was taken out of context. I mean, one thing in particular, there was one show, for example, we were doing right early on, and we were doing now watch me suddenly have the hand symbols, and now everything's going to take stills of this, me doing hand symbols. She was showing us about the different hand symbols, and we were like joking about it.
Right.
Lo and behold, snapshots or screenshots taken, now she's showing Luciferian symbols all over. So then she was accused of now. So there's so much stuff taken out of context. And then
it's deliberately taken out of context. They deliberately leave out references. They deliberately don't see. How do I know this? Because I've written public information, including all of it, and they ignore the heck out of it. You can.
Absolutely.
I've seen people on Twitter or wherever else bringing the goods again and again and again and again, like hundreds of times, and they ignore it. There's no way you can ignore that stuff hundreds of times and be, I don't even know what you'd call it. You have to be intermittently blind and deaf at only specific moments to miss it that much. So it's, it's an agenda, and it's taken me a long time to kind of realize that. The first year I wrote, all of 2021, I had my head down and I was not really communicating much with anybody beyond the comments on the blog. And then when I brought my head up, suddenly I see all this really interesting stuff about me. I'm like, what? What is anything that? One of the most interesting, somebody posted this on Twitter earlier today. One of the most interesting was, I am Jessie. Well, which is not true.
I remember that as well, not too long ago, that people were accusing you of being Jessie and Jessie of being you.
Right.
Well, I mean,
somebody actually accused me of being one of somebody else's alters. You can't make this stuff up. It's hysterical to me. I get a big laugh out of it because it's so easy to prove false. But I've enjoyed letting them kind of ramble around with their crazy ideas.
And the one was stalking me, and she was sending pictures around me and my now that annoyed me is when they start sending pictures of my granddaughter and myself.
Yeah.
But I said to her, come on, there's not even any followers to this post. I'm disappointed. I said, negative advertising is good advertising. Get some followers, please. Come.
Oh, geez. Goodness.
So anyway, but listen, I know that you want to keep it to about an hour. We actually want to keep it to about 45 minutes, but that's cool. So what I'm going to say is we are having you back every second week, every second Tuesday. So Veronica will be back on alternate Tuesdays as well. So really, really look forward to that. We're going to be going more into her blogs and things, what she's doing, and delving into some more of your blogs and getting some information. Just stuff that you've been writing about and your experience, your journey on that, which is really, really cool, because I know that you are an amazing blogger, amazing researcher. So very good to have you back and as a regular on the show, Veronica.
You.
Really, really appreciate that.
I want to thank everybody. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, carry on.
I just want to thank everybody who's been here, all the people who have supported me through this kind of nail biter of new journey here. And to any of you who are listening who don't know who I am, have no idea, please do go on my blog website and download my book in PDF form. It is 100% free. You can get it, read it, and have an idea of what I've been up to and the kinds of things that I'm interested in researching. It's also the book is designed as an introduction to this brotherhood system, so it's really meant for people who don't have much prior, if any, prior knowledge. So I encourage you to go get that. Like I said, the PDF version is 100% free. There's also a print version, but I have to pay for the printer and I have to pay to mail it, so I have to charge for that. But other than that, there you go. And if you want to read my blogs, you can sign up on the website. Unfortunately, because of all the harassment that I've gotten, I did have to put it behind a paywall, but it's $2 a month or $24 a year for, let's see, I think I put out this year, I'm planning on putting out 3 blogs a week. So that's 12 blogs a month. I don't know what that works out to in cents, but it's pretty cheap. So there you go. I also have a locals community. If we do other things there, you can kind of meet with other people outside of the kind of crazy Twitter or other environment. And we talk about stuff that's relevant to uncovering this stuff that the system has hidden from us.
Absolutely. And I think it's amazing. And I just love more and more people are speaking out and, just sharing stories. And I'm very excited about what we're going to be chatting about in the future as well, your blogs and stuff. And yeah, just hanging out with you.
Cool. Laughing.
Yeah. Yes, always laughing, not laughing, laughing.
Laughing. I was trying to do a Chantelle South African accent, and you wound up sounding like a half Italian, half Irish. So I'm not even going to attempt. Not going to do it on air anyway. I'll share it with you in private. You can laugh at me then.
Laugh at you.
I can't do it. I just can't.
Well, it's great fun hanging out with you, and I think definitely we will definitely be doing, as you say, more of these in the future, and who knows how many others can join us sometime. It's always cool to have a lot of people hanging out.
Yeah, let's hang out. Yeah, I like that. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Do you want to end off for us in prayer, maybe?
Dear God, thank you for this time together. Thank you with new friends, old friends, new experiences, and new journeys. And boy, we all kind of have this idea that 2024 is going to be something else. And I have that feeling too. So I hope it's a good something else. And I hope that we make headway and that we make progress and that we make good things for the kingdom of God on planet Earth, and that we box off Satan's kingdom and hold them to account and hold them accountable and contain them as we live our lives and make others happy in our interactions with them. Amen.
Amen. I love that. The lights came on.
The lights came on. Hysterical.
It's your birthday today, and not your birthday, but your blog's birthday.
Yeah,
I love
happy
it.
Birthday!
Yes, happy birthday to Veronica's blog! Yay!
Yay!
Oh, wonderful!
All right.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate you. Yeah, you know that I do. Love you guys madly, and thank you for Captain My Soul as well for the stickers, and to everyone who supports this channel, whether you're a Patreon, whether you just like, share, subscribe, which is always important. Our channel is pretty much shadow banned, and so the more you comment, the more you share, the more you like, the more we get the algorithms up. And really, they're not going to get us down. I refuse to actually have that happen. And the more of us who join hands and arms and stand up together and our little team era, and it doesn't just have to be a lot of other amazing platforms out there sharing fantastic information. We might not even be connected at all physically, but spiritually we are. So thank you so much to everybody. I really appreciate you. God bless you all. And I'll see you tomorrow with Jesse's show and Bryce afterwards and Caleb on Thursday. And just cool people. Yeah, hanging out with cool people.
Mhm.
See you guys. Cherry
Bye.
pie.